Devolution is without a doubt an exciting concept or idea that suggests and invokes the hope of cracking open the blockages of a central bureaucracy, curing managerial constipation, giving more direct access for the people to government and the government to the people, and stimulating the whole nation to participate in national development planning and implementation. As such, Africa has seen growing consensus amongst scholars, policymakers, and development practitioners since the 1970s, exposing that development, good policy making, and service delivery are not a preserve of the central bureaucratic agencies alone. It's also self-evident that the authoritarian and central practices of the post-colonial state in Africa were inherited from its predecessors, the colonial state. It is the colonial state that sowed seeds of authoritarianism and centralism. Unfortunately, it is the post-colonial state that failed in its mission to significantly reform the state for the benefit of its people. This failure by the state in Africa to address this particular issue has prolonged the residual effect of the colonial state, whose key characteristic was and therefore continues to be the tendency to alienate the people it governs. Dialogue with Prof recognizes the resurgence of devolution and decentralization worldwide, especially in Africa, where it has become almost indispensable as African leaders reform their states for development and improved governance. A balanced review of literature has led us to the conclusion that devolution in itself is neither good nor bad. Rather, the devil is in the detail. Especially the need to focus on the various ways in which political, fiscal, and administrative decentralization all offer new opportunities to craft and shape a new landscape for a renewal in governance in ways that transform and significantly advance the African society. There is also some level of general conclusion amongst African scholars that even faced with the initial shortcoming of devolution, is still an idea that Africans should, however, continue to push and nurture. There is some evidence that successful decentralization improves the efficiency and responsiveness of public administration, at the same time providing scope for narrowing unhealthy political divergence. Devolution, even in its infancy in Africa, has shown signs of improving the coordination of development efforts at the local level, increasing efficiency and maximizing the use of scarce resources. In general, devolution has potential for improving the intergovernmental relations and service delivery. Without doubt, a central feature of the devolution debate in Africa is the relationship between devolution, service delivery, and development. Does devolution lead to development? Or maybe development that leads to devolution? We could even reframe the question to, does devolution improve democracy? And does democracy lead to development? Or maybe it's development that makes democracy possible. Whichever way. Africa today has a wide variety of approaches to devolution and decentralization. Ethiopia and South Africa, for instance, have chosen a federal or quasi-federal system. Nigeria, on the other hand, used to be the only federal state in Africa and has adopted a new constitution that maintains the federal framework and gives more powers to its sub-national government. A number of countries on the east and west of the continent have chosen a multi-layered system. In other countries, decentralization focuses rather on strengthening existing local government units in the urban areas and the creation of new units in the rural areas, especially revitalization of the new two-tier system that prevailed in these countries in the immediate aftermath of independence. In general, rural areas are receiving priority over the urban ones in the current decentralizing trends in Africa. This unfolding trend towards rural areas brings focus on how devolution impacts on the majority of Africans who are still rural today. Some scholars have analyzed the shortcomings of devolution in Africa and conclude that the form of devolution currently rolling out in Africa is still very much based on Eurocentric ways of community participation on local issues. This leaves local communities still unable to be effective participants. A common feature in almost every African country is how the traditional forms of governance are not consciously encompassed in the foundations of local government. Throughout Africa, there are ongoing conflicts between local traditional leaders and elected councillors. Not much imagination, nor mere common sense seems to be going into preserving and promoting the positive aspects of African traditional governance and its values of inclusiveness, deep dialogue, and consensual decision-making. And last but not least, no creativity is going into reconciling the Eurocentric systems of local government and the time-tested traditional systems.